Dutchman. The story of this vessel is doubtlessly one of the most famous, peculiar, and feared worldwide, for it is a ghost ship that appears in open seas, which has been seen in the most frequented oceans and seas by countless vessels for over 3 centuries. Sailors started telling its story in the 18th century, informing of distant sightings of a ghost ship aimlessly sailing while they worked on their duties. However, its origin was previous said century in the year 1641, when Hendrik van der Decken, known by some as a sea captain from the East Indies and by others as a Dutch corsair, was on his way back from India to Amsterdam, passing through the dangerous Cape of Good Hope, a place where the chilly waters of the Arctic and the warm waters of the tropics converge, forming storms that no sailor in his right mind would dare traverse. Word has it that, filled with pride and arrogance, the captain offered his soul to the devil in exchange for the fastest vessel to have navigated the ocean, and so it was granted. No ship could sail faster than their reckless captains. It would break the waves and the wind in order to, against all odds, call on port in a matter of days or hours. The last conquest of the Dutch and his sailors had been the distant East Indies, and were their way back to Europe, crossing the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa in order to take a break from the tumultuous waters that strangely slowed them down. Waves hit the ship and threatened to capsize it. The wind ripped the sails and the mast broke from the strike of the sea and the storm damage. Meanwhile, in his cabin, Van der Decken pondered the reason why the sea was disadvantaging him. Hadn't he given the evil one what all men cherish the most, in exchange of a power his enemies or the elements could never defeat? The captain stood by his table, which staggered with every pounding of the wave, and took a silver crucifix that hanged over his bed. He held it so tightly in his hand it wounded him, and enraged he said, "Are you punishing me for giving my soul to your rival? Is this your way of challenging and humiliate me to prove you are supreme and that I must submit to your will, when the only thing I want is to go back home? Let me continue my journey and leave me and my crew alone. I have the right to make deals with whoever my soul desires." The roaring lightning falls in the sea. The storm intensifies by the second, the waves flooding his ship, which could barely stand afloat, and his men dying. Dragged by the water was all he could see. He ran to the helm, lifted the crucifix to the sky, and exclaimed, "You'll be unable to stop me. I am the Lord of the Seas, and even the devil himself fears me. No storm, god, or demon shall stop me." He then proceeded to throw the crucifix to the sea, as mocking laughter came out his throat, directed to that god that would not prevent him to get to the Netherlands and conquer the storm. A gap opened from the stormy clouds, emanating a warm, bright, sacred light. A celestial voice spoke firmly and with indescribable might. "Your blasphemy and arrogance are unacceptable. From now on, you will be attached to that you wrongly believe you love and arrogantly think you own. You shall sail the ocean as penitents, restless and without a destination. You will not have a moment of peace. The coldness of the storm will eternally be part of your flesh, and there will be no food or drink that will calm your hunger and thirst. So it will be until doomsday, and the angels sound the trumpets of Armageddon." When the enigmatic voice from the sky ceased to speak, the waters became calm, and the winds lowered their intensity. Above, a bright sun started to rise after being hidden for several days. There was a scene of apparent calm. Panic invaded the crew, and Van der Decker was terrified that God himself had presented to him with such words. Despite this, they continued their journey towards the Netherlands without major difficulties. When the port of Amsterdam could be glanced by the horizon, as they came closer to it, it seemed to get farther. The ship was making great speed and the sky was completely clear. Van der Decken could see the port, but it would get away arbitrarily, as if the sea between the ship and the destination would grow larger. "You shall sail restless and without a destination." These words resonated in his mind and began to feel increasing anguish, for he had challenged God. Van der Decken perfectly knew that the sentence against him was coming true. Years passed and became decades that turned into centuries. Van der Decken's sailors died little by little, followed by their captain. Their souls remained cursed, so they could not abandon the ship after their bodies perished. This is how this ghostly vessel and its crew was named the Flying Dutchman by those who encountered it. A man bound to perpetually sail the seas of the world in a sad and melancholic way, with a crew of dead men. When a ship crosses paths with this doomed vessel, they can only look at it for a short amount of time before it changes course and gets lost in the ocean mist. In our relatively modern world, it is widely believed that absolutely everything has an explanation and can be refuted by science, that there's a logic behind all occurrences, and that there's no such thing as magic or esotericism. Here lies a story that science hasn't been able to explain. Ghost ship apparitions are facts that have real foundations, since they've been seen in the open seas, and some have even gotten to coasts on their own, without a crew, and decades after their disappearance. The Flying Dutchman is the most famous and feared of them all. Some say this legend has been Christianized, and that it was in fact a high-rank angel who doomed this ship, but there are others convinced that it was Poseidon's wrath what cursed them, for the captain had blasphemed when saying that not even the god of the seas could oppose his powerful ship. Others claim that sea demons torment the captain and his crew commanded by the devil, claiming the soul of the captain as payment for their pact, tasking him of bringing death and terror with whoever sails without caution. The truth is that to this day, people who have bathed in the beaches of the Cape of Good Hope claim that, on occasions, far by the horizon, a vessel from the 18th century can be seen, wrapped in ghastly fog, with gray torn sails. The Flying Dutchman, a cursed apparition that wanders the oceans of the world, aimlessly and eternally.